Oh, hello and good day, everyone. Hello.
Well, hello.
Hello. Good to have you all
Hi.
here. This is the Midseason Power Rankings review. And it's been a whole load of Tuesday. Huh. I'm Dan. It's good to have you here. Together with me here, I have Luckey, the usual co-host. Good day, Luckey.
Afternoon.
How is your week-long Tuesday been so far?
I mean, consumers attack Chorby Soul.
How much of a soul does Chorby Souls still have?
Last time, I stopped checking yesterday. It was still somewhere in the mid 1400s.
Oh, well then.
Well, plus 300.
Also regular co-host now. 3 for 3, Ileana of Sibber. A good Sibber to you.
Hello.
Also the author of the It Only Tuesday.
Thank you for that, by the way.
I woke up yesterday at 4:30 in the morning
and chose violence.
Saw Liquid Friend had just been redacted, and was just like, okay.
What can you do?
Tuesday.
So oddly enough, not only because we have a representative of Sibber here, not only will be talking about Tuesday today, but salmon. There will be salmon course. Finally.
Is that when you have a course of a meal that is just salmon?
Oh, that sounds good, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or one of those sushi boats that is just rolls that have salmon in them.
Now, if that boat would then kind of start over with resetting the sushi on it, and just keep going over and over again until you're done eating.
And then you would have salmon weather salmon.
Or would you never stop eating? Would you never stop eating? Keep having salmon and salmon.
We don't know when we started this adventure, but we're still on it. And our guest here for tonight that has not been here before, Rhett, you are not just one of the sources of information that we love for the New York Millennials, but you are also the lead for the Writers Union.
Yes, and I'm glad to find this is my first foray off of Twitter into another medium for Blaseball, so I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
And now, since you yourself are actually new to the broadcast here, tell us just a little bit about what the Writers Union Twitter and the community does.
So it started off as a joke so we can make awards to give to people for the coffee cup, and it's kind of morphed a little more into a community of more than writers, right? We're trying to figure that out. Reporters, content creators, we have some Sibber people involved. And it's pretty much a place to get together to support each other and promote each other's work, and that's what the Twitter account does. And we vote on awards. We voted 3 times, and we're voting again this season, and we're trying to make Blaseball listen to us as a group of writers. So we'll see how it goes this year. But yeah, it's a great group. And we're trying to grow, and we want more people involved, and we're trying to grow people that cover the game.
That's good. That's good to hear. Now, as we move forward, Luckey, what are our big topics for today? What do you have for us to talk about?
All right. So for us to talk about, I have on the mild side, crabs good. Even with flinch, do they have enough stars to maintain? And then, since Red is here, let's go Mills, baby. Love the Mills. Are they sustainable? I think we might talk a little bit about, this was a discussion that we had on the BNN Discord. If any of our viewers would like to join BNN Discord, you can find the link, I believe, on the Twitter bio for BNN. And one of the big discussions was, how do you do power ranks? Do you try to rank by how strong a team you think is, or how many wins you think they'll get? Kind of competing things, or do you hybrid? Then, of course, we should move to the Wild to talk about a certain team, one of the original 20 teams, the one that has not made the playoffs yet, but is leading their division, Miami Dale. Can they sustain this? And then let's kind of check a rundown of Wild versus Mild. So those are my thoughts, and of course, salmon. And the Swedish word for shark, which is the new Sibber rebranding that has taken us today.
Well, I mean, I think this just has us all asking, the beginning of every new beautiful day, what is Sibber going to be? Ileana.
We're out of jokes now.
No,
Oh, no.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that because Chorby is still on staff.
Yeah, but they've been a little they've been out of it.
Oh,
this
they've
week.
been busy.
Working
Oh
a new
no.
gig. Yeah.
Well,
So,
maybe
we're
you
out of
are running out
jokes.
of jokes. That's not good. You do at least have a shark. You have a
I do
shark.
at least- yeah.
Now, is that consumer going to attack anyone?
Hope not. Because I think I'm the only one it can attack.
No.
I guess, how dense is your soul and what's the E velocity?
Has Sibber researched Sibber on their own density?
Given how much everything is going to all of our heads when we figure all of this stuff out, it's probably pretty dense.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'm just asking you to be careful then. Just asking for a little bit of caution. All right, let's get into it here. Since Rhett is here and joining us, let's go to the Mills, baby. Let's just go right to the Mills.
First place Mills.
First place Mills. Are we saying that right now? Is it a first place Mills scenario?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and we were kind of talking beforehand that nobody really wants to win in the mild high, especially it seems like.
Mhm.
It kind of reminds me of a couple seasons ago where they backed into it. It was like that last series was who wants it the least, clinched this division between them and the Stakes. I think they're good. Or when people, Mills good, the eternal question. I say sure. They're beating up on really bad teams, like really beating them up. And that's what good teams do. So I think that they are good. I think that the lineup is a lot better. So looking at the stats, like they have the same record they did this time, like in season 13 and season 12, and they kind of faltered near the end. But the lineup is different, right? They have more stars in the bottom. The pitching is even better. Theo Cervantes is a stud, and he is the best pitcher in the league. Uncle Plasma went on his investigations, and he found more stars, and who knows what else. He didn't find a good friend yet. So, he's now a 5-star pitcher. Penny Matthews is almost a 5-star pitcher.
We're keeping hope alive for Liquid Friend.
We are. So I think they're good. And I think that they took advantage of the schedule given to them. And on Twitter, you always interact with people. A win is a win. You can only play what the schedule is in front of you, right? And they're doing it. They had a little bump in the road with the Flowers and the Georges, but they were close against the Breathmints, which was a real test. They got shamed twice. They lost each game by 1 run, and the Breathmints have that overperform mod that comes off pretty soon. And the Mills play them 9 times after that. So if you can beat up on the really bad teams like the Garages and like Chorby Soul, and go 500 against everyone else, I think you're in good hands. And I think they can do that. And I have a good feeling they're going to make the playoffs. After that, they might run into the Crabs. What does that look like? Don't know. So
I only have 2 prepared questions for you. One of which I actually already asked you as we were discussing, hey, do you want to come on today? But the first one I'm going to ask you is, does Cervantes get their Blagan Ball? Are they going to get their Blagan Ball?
What, for having the 12th perfect game?
Yeah. 9 innings, I think it's 27 ounce, was it? It's 27 ounce, right?
Yeah.
27 outs in a standard game. Yeah.
And
I think Red froze. Oh no.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, my question actually shocked Rhett into that's Rhett's shocked face. Oh no. Well,
Wait. Theo might get a Blagan Ball.
Unlikely, though.
Unlikely, yeah.
I've already had the perfect game, Black and Ball, so.
Oh.
At some point here, maybe. Hopefully Rhett rejoins us here. We will continue with the Miami Dale questions. Not Miami Dale. The Millennials questions. Let's switch over to the Miami Dale while we're waiting for Rhett to rejoin us here. Lucky, what's going on with the Dale?
That's a good question. The thing is I think a lot of that wild low, especially, but a lot of the wild league, is just really bunched up, kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like in general, when you look at the power rankings, essentially like like the entire nougaty center of the power rankings is all wild league teams, mostly wild low. Yay, Rhett's back.
Yeah, my computer couldn't take the Blaseball.
All right, so
Right.
we'll get back to Miami Dollar here in a second, but continuing with the Mills now that you've returned to us, does Cervantes get a Blaseball?
I mean, Patty Fox has one for pitching a perfect game, so I don't see why he wouldn't also get one. But who knows? Like, I didn't know there were 12 of them. I didn't follow. I'm not on the Sipper Discord. I didn't follow that kind of like thing with the event thing. And whenever I see a shutout, I always go to see like, did we get no hit? And I just did not do it because it was like 6 a.m. and I just woke up and I was like, oh, this looks good. I'm gonna go about my day.
There you go.
Like, I'm sure it's fine. I've checked how many times and it's never been. So why would this one be any different? But
And
I hope he
even,
does.
7 of the perfect games that have happened so far all came in that like era of the pitcher that we had between seasons 12 and 14. And I think I'm still feeling the like, oh, another perfect game mood, right? Like, oh, shucks, another.
But I just like that the Sibber's just like, there's been 12 of these things. And I was like, oh, well, so everyone gets one? Everyone gets one? Is that what the point is? Like, so he gets one? But no, yeah, I didn't realize how, I didn't
rare,
realize
certainly
it's rare. Yeah, but it's not like super rare.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not one of the, and speaking of that topic, we're not even sure what the rest of the Blaseball are going to look like because we're starting to run out of statistical anomalies in Blaseball that also exist in baseball. So it's interesting to look at things like perfect games still and look at the frequency at which they happen. We've had only one so far in season 15. I wouldn't be too surprised with how things are looking that we're going to end with Cervantes getting the only perfect.
Really? You think that this might be it? That might just be the one for this season?
Yeah, I think so. I guess they unraised the mound, right? Or something, right? Like clearly something got tuned with the ballparks.
Yeah.
Over this off season. So not maybe the flooding is washing away the mound. Who knows?
Well, one thing I don't know if we discovered it this season, but with ballparks, foul balls foul up the ballpark. It increases the untidiness and
The filthiness, yes.
the filthiness. What does that even do? Do we know what filthiness even does to a ballpark?
Well, so far what we know is the only thing I think we know about filthiness right now is that it is part of the density formula. It's one of the 3 parts of your ballpark stats that are apparently physical concepts or objects, and can be measured. So that keeps going up. Teams are getting closer and closer to shark bite territory.
Well, we're going.
That's really all we know.
I'm afraid to talk about the consumers just yet, as there is one stalking you. So we'll talk about consumers here later on in the broadcast. The second question I had for Rhett, in the hopes that this doesn't shock you too much. I already asked you this once, so
Don't knock me off again.
want to have the conversation about the Mills traditionally have they're going good towards the end of the season. Do they hit that point this season again? Because right now, their growth throughout the middle of the season looks very nice. It looks like they're going to continue this. So,
Right.
Do they hit that fall off point?
I don't know. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they get. Usually they'll have a couple stretches where they go 3-7 in the last 10, right? Or 2-8 like they did a couple years ago. I don't think they will hit that bad because they do have some sort of like padding in their schedule. Like they play the Lovers 9 more times this year or 6 more times, I think. And then, who knows what the Mints will look like. They play the Pies pretty well. So I could see them hitting a rough stretch, but not like we've seen unless, something goes really, really poorly. Because they do have 3 stoppers on the staff. They have 3 pitchers that go out and you can say this pitcher can stop a losing streak. And I think, and Uncle Plasma, again, he's like the third one that he was pretty good in the beginning of the season. We'll see what happens as it goes on. And they're kind of throughout the rotation. The rotation is what it is, but, you got your ace up top. You got Penny in the middle that can stop after, Patty Fox is having a complete down season after having a couple up seasons, right? And then you got Felix Garbage, then you got another stopper. So I don't think we'll see a huge skid unless the offense just completely goes kaput. Which is totally possible. They've kind of been sputtering now, but it's nice to see a game where the pitchers give up 4 runs and the Mills win, which did not happen last season.
Sure.
So I don't think you'll see a big skid, but I wouldn't expect them to play like 600 ball the rest of the way. Okay. Honestly.
Lucky, let's go to you on this. Mills, where are you on them? What do you feel?
I'm feeling that they make the playoffs. A lot of what I feel is Red has mentioned is, they avoid, aside from that 1 3-game series, they avoid the breath mints during their overperforming period. It is a little worrying that they've played all their games against the garages. There's no more games against the garages.
That's been an easy target for them.
It has been a ridiculously easy target for them. They have played it just exceptionally well against Seattle.
They scored something like 131 runs against them in 15 games and like 13-2. So yeah, that was.
Ouch!
They took advantage of it. That's why I think they're a good team. Like they didn't just beat the garages; they beat them down at pretty much every game. And not just when Chorby Souls was pitching. Those are just 3 of those games. They scored like 100 runs combined against all the other, in the other 10 games. So, they're beating up bad teams, which is good.
And I think the other thing, too, is we're going to... they only have 1 series against the Moist Talkers, only 1 more series against the Crabs. So they're going to avoid some of those, teams that are, have the high win totals. Them and the Pies, that'll be a big determiner, I think. But I think the 2 of them will probably hit, play out 500 against each other. They avoided... if they can keep avoiding... This, I don't know, we were talking about it before the show started. The game where we had Non pitching against Theo in flickering weather. As someone who watches a lot of Wild High, and I've seen, what happens when the Tigers suddenly lose one of their mainstays. Instead, Non basically just echoed every, almost every possible combination of things to get rid of the receiver debt. But so I think that's a big thing is it's a big if, but if they can avoid all of that, weather plot chicanery, I think the Mills have a really good shot at the postseason and even in the postseason.
Just looking at the Lovers rotation, Non and Cervantes line up every time, I think. Yeah, they both have 6 pitchers. So we gotta hope there's no flickering weather, because if that were to happen, there goes the streak. You know what I mean? They cannot survive that. No team could survive that, honestly, right?
Well, and that's Tigers. And what was even worse when it happened to the Tigers, Non flipped from the Firefighters to the Tigers, switching with Figueroa, and then they were going to be playing in feedback weather again, day 99, but then Non received a scattered modification, or not scattered, but a elsewhere modification, and so was skipped in the rotation. And I was like, oh, that's not, Sim, that is just evil. That's evil.
So speaking of evil, this entire week has been made of Tuesdays. And I think, as I was commenting to the group beforehand, we all need a siesta after this. We'll get into some of the more individual specific stuff here later, but going to you, Ileana, Cap brings up a good point in the chat. Tell us more about the Mills and their unclutch stat.
I don't even know what Kat is talking about. Honestly.
So
you mean just the tendency for them to?
I thought
is that the end of the season
a stat? Because it's like 100%. It's gotta be. It's gotta be off the charts. How do you lose 2 game 5s in a wild card to a team that can't win a game in the past 3 seasons?
Well, yeah, and like I said on Twitter, I think it was a few seasons back. Like the Mills just took their postseason slide or their end of season slide and pushed it into the postseason. I don't know. I think there's two separate questions here for me. Are the Mills going to make the postseason? I think the answer is yes. How far are they going to get? If you're looking at them going up against the Talkers, the I almost said the Breath Mints.
No.
The Talkers and the Pies and the Crabs.
It's a big
know.
question to answer. It's a big question.
Because those are all really, really, really powerful teams right now. And the Mild League looks pretty strong. And the Mild League has won the last two internet series away from the Tacos. So I don't know how far they make it. I honestly wouldn't hold it against the Mills to lose some of these postseason games, because that's just how strong the Mild League is this season.
Yeah, for sure.
No, agreed. I was trying to think on the way on, like, what's the optimal pitching performance? Because, you can't, all three of those best pitchers cannot go in one series, which is tough. And you need to get one of those other three pitchers to chip in a win, which they did in the wild card game. And then you give Theo Cervantes a 3-run lead in the first inning, and you're like, this is over. They're going to the first round after the wild card. And they blew it. So, you need some luck. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But baseball's a weird game sometimes. So
Blaseball giveth and Blaseball taketh.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, so just to confirm, Sibber does not directly track the clutch stat.
If we did, I'd be banned.
Fair enough. We'll move on. Let's talk about some Wild League times. My first I'm just going to make this statement. The Miami Dale, the Hellmouth Sunbeams, and the Hades Tigers currently lead the Wild League. Yes, the Miami Dale. What? Lucky. What?
Yeah, Miami Dale, number 1 in the Wild. And this is one of those where we ask the same question I think we ask of the Mills. Is how much of it was the fact they got to feast on the Atlantis Georgias? Because they played so many of their early games, they played against the Ohio Worms and the Atlantis Georgias, and they feasted. But to Rhett's point, that's what good teams do.
Yeah, you stack that record up.
You stack that record up, and the thing is, obviously they've had Caius Dogwalker, forever, and Caius has just been tormenting the Wild League for season upon season. And in general, they have a pretty solid lineup. I think the Dale also got a little lost in the fact, I think last year the ranks had them higher than their usual 16, and the Dale fell back. But I think this year there's such I said before, it's like there's this nougaty center of the Wild League, which it's all very mushy. You have your top 3 or 4 teams, and then you have your bottom 1 or 2 teams, and then everyone else kind of is like within a few games of each other. You're just kind of pulling it, stretching it out. You never know. You just, depending how you pull it, a team is on top or bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dale have really separated themselves from that. And I think part of it is like, if you are the Firefighters or the Jazz Hands or the Flowers, when you're going up against teams that are supposed to be less good or less skilled this season, or having an off season or an off year, they're going 500 against them, or doing okay. None of those teams are going up against what should be a team that they should be beating, like the Atlantis Georgias, and beating them. They're doing what to the garages what the Mills are. The Dale are. The Dale are taking advantage of situations that other Wild League teams aren't, and hey, look, suddenly you're in first place.
Okay. Ileana, right now in the Wild League, obviously we're used to seeing the Sunbeams up there as of 4 or 5 seasons ago. We're used to seeing the Tigers. Hades Tigers are good again.
They're no longer bad at Blaseball.
I mean that could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is another Tuesday, so we don't know that. But what has led to the Dale being able to do this? Is this, like Luckey was saying, more of that circumstance where they're taking advantage of the schedule, or is this a statistical advantage that maybe we didn't see?
I think a pretty easy thing that likely was overlooked by a lot of folks was they patched up one of the big holes in their lineup over the election. They sent Baldwin Breadwinner off to the Crabs and got Logan Horseman, a 5-star batter, in exchange. So that was, if you're looking at the Dale's roster right now, really their only hole is 1.5-star Caleb Novak. They look, you look at the Dale and they look about as good as, honestly, about as good as the Tigers, if not a little bit more consistent.
Really?
And I think that consistency in the stars, that consistency in your ability to perform in a game really, really adds up over time. So I think that's really the big. Trading away a 1-star hitter for a 5-star hitter.
That's a huge upgrade.
It's a huge upgrade, and when your team looks like this, I think it pays off good, right? So, yeah, I think the Dale are starting to look like a, assuming nothing absolutely disastrous happens to them between now and day 99.
You never know.
You never know. I think they're looking like a team that's actually going to make the playoffs. Taking one of those top 4 spots in the Wild League. Where they go after they get there, that's the question I always keep asking. I think they have a pretty strong shot with the way the Wild League has situated into, you have 3 good teams and you have 2 not so good teams, and everyone else is sort of just in the middle duking it out. I think also the schedule has a little bit of play here. The schedule always has a little bit of play, but not nearly as much as the success of the Dale in handling their wills at the end of season 14. I think that's really the big story there.
That's a very good point. And honestly, I was concerned for the Dale because even though they were able to fill one of those gaps, they lost Beck Whitney to the Fridays, which I'm going to be honest, Beck Whitney is one of the best sluggers in the ILB. She is strong. So I thought that was going to be more of a dink than it ended up being. Moving on, Rhett, as someone who probably focuses a little bit more on the Mild League and specifically the Mills, looking at the Wild League from your perspective, which of these teams are you worried about facing in the postseason? Well,
definitely the Tigers, right? Just Mills history, just the Tigers, but in general, they're always kind of there. And then the Sunbeams, they're always hanging around. They're always going far. I will say I pay attention to whatever league the Mills are in, but yeah, I would say those two. I don't know about the Dale. I'm pulling for them. I've been a fan for a while, just following them on Twitter. And how are they going to react if and when they make the playoffs? Because their whole shtick is not making the playoffs and being the doormat of the league.
And being the life of the party, right?
Right. So what are they going to do when they don't party? How is that going to go over? But I think that's good. I think that's good for the league. I always think, even in real life, like a team that's always kind of down, having a good season or making the playoffs for the first time is a really good story. So they're kind of the wild card on that one. Like we've all been talking about, like how will they play in the playoffs for the first time? Is their lineup strong enough? But definitely the Tigers and I think the Sunbeams, again, top of the league, and they would be difficult to face unless you're the Crabs. So
I think one of the things too is this isn't the first or even the second season where the Dale have, say a third or halfway through have been near the top. Because I remember, the Dale likes to give BNN a little bit of grief whenever they're near the top. I remember, well, at least I think it was one of the Discipline era seasons where they're like, look at us. And someone went, wait, have you played the Crabs at all this year? No.
Oh, no.
Don't you have like 12, 15 games against them later in the season? But I don't see that as much within this season. Like, I don't see that there's any like long stretch of games where you go, it's going to catch up with them now.
It's late, right? Like it's past the halfway point.
Yeah.
It's kind of everything's kind of separated, and if you're in the top part of the division right now, it's going to take a huge, terrible losing streak to knock you off, even if you do have a rough patch of like 5 or 6 games. So yeah, I think they're for real.
Certainly, I'd be surprised not to see the Tigers, the Dale, the Sunbeams in the Wild League postseason. I would be shocked if those 3 teams aren't in there. It is unfortunate that some things did happen though during this season, and we'll touch on this briefly. This season's been rough. This season has been difficult with players being redacted and with the consumers. We won't talk about the one behind Ileana. Everything's going to be fine. Attacking mostly Chorby Souls. There have been some, I'm going to say, incidents. And the big one that comes to mind, at least for me, is the unfortunate loss of Chorby Short yesterday. That hit a lot of us. Hard is an understatement, because not only is Chorby Short beloved across the league, Yellowstone put a lot of voting power into Chorby, and to just lose her, there's a reason Yellowstone is at the bottom of the mild low right now. From the second to the top that they were towards the beginning of the season, especially after Isabeth and Oz came back. So, Ileana, is there one thing that hit you hard just this season that's like, curse you Tuesday?
I mean, I talked a bit about waking up at 4:30 because I felt something weird and
a disturbance.
In Discord and I felt a disturbance and saw Liquid Friend had been redacted. But I think the redactions overall have been concerning, but also confusing and confounding. We're still trying to figure out if there's patterns that we can identify with, the being marked, being observed is something that's pretty clearly random, right? You're either hit by a pitch or you catch a fly out or what have you, right? From one of the 2 to 6 deaded players in the league, depending on what the Echoes feel like doing that day. Going from there to no entry in the feed, no entry in the game log. The only thing you can do is go look at the roster and see, are they still on your team after one of 3 different kinds of coffee weather. It's kind of exhausting to keep track of, and trying to understand what the hell is going on is deeply suffering.
Because it's not like they're dead. It's not like being redacted.
It's not like they're dead.
They're not in the Hall of Flame.
It might be worse because there's nothing you can do about it, right? If you have a beloved player like York Silk and you want them to come back, well, all it takes is a few will votes apparently. But
I thought we'd learned from necromancy by this point, but no.
Maybe it'll be different next time. It's got to be different. It has to be, right?
Really, I think it's the problem is it's much easier to commit necromancy, especially accidentally. Because if you wanted to bring Jalen back from the dead, first off, you had to get the entire league to get them at, position 14 on the idle board, and then make sure. Oh, all you had to do was that, because whoever is at 14 goes to some team that gets a blessing, right? Mechanically, you don't have to do a whole lot to accidentally necromance someone in Blaseball anymore, because if you just happen to vote on a specific will on a, let's call it Tuesday, and they get incinerated on a Thursday, and you just foreshadowed them into your shadows again with debt, it's much easier to accidentally piss off the gods than it was in the discipline era, which is surprising. So yeah, I think people are going to ask if we're going to learn our lesson, and the answer is going to be there's nothing to learn. There are no lessons to learn anymore. This is probably going to keep happening if the elections are designed like this. But yeah, I think redaction is weird. That's my take.
Does it have anything to do with Uncle Plasma and his investigation? Is that just kind of like someone shooting in the dark there?
It seems, because the first two redacted players were Brisket Friendo and Tad Seath.
Mm-hmm.
Who
did actually disappear under very mysterious circumstances.
Yes.
In that we have no idea what actually happened.
Like, it seemed like when the two players who were at that time returned went back to the Hall of Flame, they got replaced by players from the Field of Eggs, which usually doesn't happen. And then it felt like something, then they just disappeared after people got really excited about Brisket Friendo.
Yeah, and it took us a while to even realize anything had happened there because of all of the roster changes. We rely on looking at a tool that says, oh, hey, these roster changes happened, right? But after the election happens, there's like 80 roster changes now. So
there's stuff that gets lost in the mix.
It's really easy for well, I think that affects everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It gets really easy for someone to be like, oh, that happened in the season 14 election? I have no idea. Because the BNN Sunday Roundup is only an hour long and not the 4 hours it needs to be to fully cover the election.
Yeah, the rush through that is real.
Yeah.
So, moving on here. Luckey, is there a redaction or an event that has happened so far in the season that has marked you in a certain way, has hit you hard?
So, like I said, that game with Nan and Theo Cervantes, especially since Nan is an Echo now, and we're now getting, we're getting more Echoes and fewer receivers. So that was one, and which also ties into when I was, tweeting from the Blaseball Prospectus account. I noticed I went, whoa, wow. It's probably not a good thing to have Wyatt Mason X on the same team as Chorby Souls. And then that all happened. But I think the redaction, like after that happened, because that led directly into all the observation. And to Ileana's point, as someone trying to cover it live, I joked about this morning that it felt like I was an investigator just trying to find out who had been observed. And if they've been observed, multiples of 9 is when the week ends. Let me check. Oh, did they have coffee weather? So I'm sitting there on Reblaze just for the half an hour, going through the overnight games, going, all right, here's all the observed. Okay, those cleared, those didn't. Okay, who had coffee weather? Who has coffee weather?
Get the red yarn and the sticky tack out.
Oh,
pretty much. It's Pepe Silva. I mean, and to Ileana's point, it's just, I think it ties in, like thematically, it ties into what Uncle Plasma and Liquid Friend are trying to do. But I'm like, I feel for Uncle Plasma now. I see why they didn't come out with Clue on the first few trips to the shoe. I get it now because I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay, that's good.
I thought I was bad on Reblaze. Oh man.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's another level.
Rhett, same question to you. Has anything hit you this season so far?
Well, a false alarm is when Uncle Plasma went into the shadows and no one knew. At least I didn't know because I was, and it was just like, did we lose? Did they lose their third best pitcher? And then he comes back empty-handed 3 times, but he's got more stars. So that was like a false alarm. One thing that we kind of talked about before the show that didn't hit, but would have been kind of funny or great if it did, is when Felix Garbage took on Chorby Souls in, I forget what day it was, and the Mills almost lost that game. Felix Garbage could not catch a break in that game and was pitching run for run with Chorby Souls until the Mills pulled away in the 7th inning and won that game 9-6. So like a 0-star pitcher almost beat Felix Garbage, and I love Felix Garbage.
Actually, I think the thing that I thought you were going to say was when Chorby Souls hit Sandy Turner with a pitch early this season, and just like the parallel all the way back to season 3, when Sandy Turner came from the field of eggs because Chorby Souls had just been incinerated early in season 3, right? And
was that on Tuesday? Because like, or was that? Did we go through Tuesday after that? Because like, yes. If that happened before Tuesday, I forgot about it.
I think it was Monday, but I think we can call it an observed Tuesday.
Right. That too. There's been a couple close misses, and then of course Ren Hunter being redacted with Peanut Holloway. And Peanut Holloway is playing like 15 games a season for the Mills at this point. He got swept elsewhere for like 60 games a couple seasons ago, so they can't be in the lineup the whole time. They were also not doing very well. So that also kind of hits, but then that kind of condenses the lineup a little bit. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. You don't want to see players get redacted, but the lineup is a little bloated anyway. So there was that. Nothing too terrible has befallen them yet, but it's baseball, so you're always just crossing your fingers and hoping it doesn't. So we'll see. So nothing yet. The Mills are good so far. So it's been pleasant. It's nice covering a team when they're good, and there's a lot of people paying attention and interaction and things like that.
Yeah. I think for the record, we can all call Monday a Tuesday light. Yes. Hello.
Is it Conan?
Can I help you? He just hopped up in my face like, yes. Moving on here. Salmon. Lucky, your thoughts on salmon?
We mentioned salmon as a meal, and I am a big fan of that, having grown up on the shores of Lake Michigan, as many of us have, since we're all from Chicago. It is a tasty meal. I mean, used to having it every Friday. I am really curious how we go forward from here, because we have the flooding, and we have the salmon, which seem a similar type of weather but acts differently. Is it me, or does it seem like a lot of the mild league teams have had their runs retroactively taken off the board? Like, I haven't seen it as much in the wild. Maybe I'm just not noticing the right accounts, but it seems like a lot of mild teams are having their runs disappear when they have to replay an inning.
Yeah, so I was keeping an eye on the Magic the other day, and during one of the games I was broadcasting Monday night for Yellowstone. I believe this was the second game, the 6:00 game Monday night. There were 4 incidents in one game of salmon swimming upstream. We had to replay innings 4 times, and that's not including the extra innings that happened at the end of the game, because multiple home runs, specifically that Chorby short hit, were swept away because salmon decided they needed to yeet themselves up a waterfall.
Well, and I wonder, when we talk about, when we do rankings, there are so many things we don't know and can't consider, like the schedule. Mm-hmm. But new weather is a huge one, because I feel like every year, every season, there's at least one team that just gets the short end of the weather. And it feels like, when I'm seeing the mild, I've seen a Magic, I've seen a few Moist Stalkers, I think I've seen Breathmints too, where it seems like a lot of wild teams, like where you're seeing an unslam, or you're seeing like a 6-run inning just get erased and replayed.
Yes.
And
I
was like,
forget what
"That's-"
team that happened to. God, what team did that happen to? There was one Monday where 6
the
runs
6
were
runs?
just.
Yeah.
I think that was the Breath Mints.
Oh, I'm sorry, Breathmans.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was a mild team because I remember seeing like Shoe Thieves got one. I remember seeing the Moist Talkers have that. I remember seeing the Breath Mints and the Magic. I was like, I don't know if it's just because of the underlying stats and how it's interacting with the weather. It's because of the stadiums. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like a lot of teams. And the thing is, the mild has a lot of those really top tier teams based on our rankings. And then just, what's it like to have that many runs just yanked off the scoreboard?
Well, those are all mild low teams because the Mills, I don't remember them happening to them yet. And I could be wrong. Someone might call me out on Twitter, but I don't remember seeing that happen in the game logs. And I'm looking here on Reblaze for that action. I'm not sure if it's captured there. But you just mentioned like every team in the mild low except the Crabs. So, and I haven't seen it happen in the wild either. So I don't know, coincidence or something's going on. But
I would certainly be very curious about that. Ileana, as Sibber is the expert on salmon course, as they are now the Salmon Institute for Blaseball Research. Nope, that was yesterday. Scratch that.
I was waiting to see if you catch yourself.
Still, I believe that you folks are all the experts on salmon.
Or at least we pretend to be. Yeah.
What is going on with salmon? Is there any background statistics? Is there any mechanics that we need to be looking at when it comes to salmon and why this is happening?
Honestly, I think we've been too enamored with the fact that there's salmon weather in Blaseball to actually like sit down and look at it.
Everyone's still running around. There's salmon.
I think there's like most things I say, it's a joke, but also there's a little truth to it. So, yeah, my hunch, honestly, is there's some teams getting hit hard by weather. Breath Mints, Moist Talkers seem to be the most likely issues there. I'm half tempted to blame mysticism, which seems to be the surprise, it's weather time part of your ballpark statistics. But yeah, it'd be interesting to look at after a full season of data and sort of getting a fair look at, hey, how many teams actually had salmon weather? How many runs per salmon weather game did they lose from salmon swimming upstream? There's sort of a lot of, Blaseball is now a game of confounding variables. So we do need a full season's worth of data to really sit down and go, oh, that's how that weather seems to proc. For right now, I think we're looking at it and just giggling at the continued impact that fans have had on this game. Even in the face of the absolutely most absurd chains of events you have ever seen in your life. So
that is my favorite white paper. As someone who works in digital preservation and file formats and things like that, like I was just like, oh my goodness, this is great. Like, also, I was like, why is everyone talking about salmon? A couple of months ago, I'm like, what's all this salmon doing on my Blaseball feed? It's like, oh, this is wild.
Yeah.
It's
here.
really fun to see a reference to like I didn't have a lot to do with the salmon research that Super people did, other than just like letting it happen, right? Like letting it take its course. But it's always really cool seeing something that is a story as neat as that, especially since Sipper has a lot of people who care about digital preservation and archival and all of those things. Like first and foremost, that's what we do. We archive Blaseball. And see that recognized in Blaseball's unique way of recognizing that. It's very neat. No, I don't know how the weather works. I just think it's cool.
I mean that's a strong step forward. Kat in the chat brings up that most of the Wild League has boreal stadiums, so it does bring up the question: does the type of stadium affect whether or not salmon swim upstream through it?
I would say probably. I think we understand mysticism to be the weather kind of happens more often.
Is it mysticism or is it fortification?
Might be both.
I mean, that's the thing. There are some that
Yeah.
do double.
I think Loge was high mysticism, low fortification.
Yeah.
Which gets you both ends of that. But fortification also, I have to go look at the thing someone made. Anyway,
There's a lot going on there.
there's a lot going on. I mean, we're
Yeah.
at season 15, and I still don't know what like Divinity does. So, because I can go look it up, but I don't memorize it because they're just words. What is Shakespeareanism? Who knows? But
Sure.
it's starting to look like the ballpark stats, right? The knobs that everyone has been given are going to have way more of an effect on each individual game
Mhm.
than an individual's players stars could ever do. So
Sure. Lucky, between salmon and sharks, what weather do we get next? What kind of aquatic or marshlands creature are we getting?
Oh, okay. So that's two things. One, I don't think we're getting any more weather this 3-season bunch. So if I remember correct, we got flooding in the last 3-season bunch. We've got salmon for this season. I imagine we'll get snacks around that and abilities that proc from it. But there is that whole thing where Blaseball2.com, the gates are bent and broken and the lock busted. And we didn't see that.
I forgot about that.
Like
everything happens so much.
That
happened on
that
Tuesday?
could be a reference to the consumers, but I don't think so. So there's what's coming in the future. I don't know, but the thing is you figure that the consumers were probably feasting on something else, on some other part of the plane before the Immateria flooded in. Did they have a natural predator? Is that natural predator maybe what was behind the broken gate? I don't know. I mean, the thing is the sharks, the consumers are going to be very well fed on Chorby Souls. So if there's a predator,
and there's plenty there to go around.
Yeah. In ecosystems, I mean, I feel like there's something on the food chain that could be looking at a feast on consumers.
My question about that, now that I have remembered that it happened in the first place, I forgot that the gates were broken at all. I completely forgot. My question is, did something break out or did something break in?
I think something broke around.
We know the cosmology is that
I wasn't prepared for that.
The crabs were above. Those expansion teams came from above. The Immaterias seems to be flooding downwards.
So baseball's hell? Is that what we're getting at? Like, it's like the last circle.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of my list of things I'd be surprised about, that's pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty low on that one. All right, final predictions time. As we like to end the broadcast with, we end with hubris. Because if nothing else, power rankings are about hubris. What do the finals look like? We're going to go to Rhett first.
Oh man.
You're the new guest, so I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit.
If I don't pick the Mills, I won't hear the end of it. I think, if for some reason I just have a gut feeling if there's one team that can beat the Crabs, and don't ask me why, I think it's the Mills. I just have a gut feeling about this that I think they can take them, and we'll find out more because we'll find out more when they play the next series in a couple days here. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Mills make it, and I think they might. I just have a good feeling. This team seems like they can go all the way. They have unsung players that step up every game. I do like them. I do like the Mills. And coming out of the Wild High, why not go for the Tigers and why not have a rematch of what happened 11 seasons ago? And season 3 and 4. That would be great. And that also means I have to write the article I've been threatening to write about to recap those seasons.
Good luck.
Right. So I'm going to go full homer here, and I'm picking the Mills from the Mild, and I'll pick the Tigers from the Wild.
All right. Lucky, hubris us.
Hubris us. I'm looking at the Crabs and I'm saying that's a lot of stars. That's a lot of stars they're sitting on. That, if it weren't for Flinch and Mild Pitch, they might be on pace for like an 80-win season. As is, they're probably going to hit 70 or more. I'm looking at that and saying, not knowing what's going to happen with all the plot relevant stuff, I think the Crabs make it back to the finals. But that's where I feel like it gets interesting, because then I feel like, you know what? I'm feeling the Dale. I mean, the thing is when you have the Tigers and the Dale both have low stadiums, both the kind of stadiums that are going to have the weather things, both, get all those hits, based on what Ileana mentioned earlier, went looking, and the thing is, when you compare, say, the Tigers and the Dale head to head, and just in terms of stars, I don't know, stars are like, but the Dale match up or beat the Tigers in pretty much nearly every category, in terms of just the amount of stars they have and the consistency. So I could see the Dale riding those low style stadiums to the finals against the Crabs, and from there on in, I have no idea. But Crabs versus Dale, I would just be happy. I just think that would be the silliest thing ever, and I'd love it.
Ileana, your hubris, please.
I don't think it's going to be the Crabs in the internet series this season, and I think the reason for that is simply consumers. They've already got the red light next to them.
They do.
So I think they have a decent chance of. I think they will make the playoffs, but by that time, will they be able to perform the same way they did at the beginning of the season, with the amount of stars they actually started with? Yeah, I think that's an open question for the Crabs. I think the Talkers are going to make it back to the internet series, and I am also going to pick the Dale from the Wild League. So I think it's a Dale Talkers internet series, and if it gets there, I have no idea. I have zero idea. because I think the Dale are really consistent. The Talkers are even stronger, but I think it depends a lot on whether they're going to be playing under high pressure, whether they're going to have the actual literal clutch mechanic of Blaseball work out in their favor. On paper, the Dale don't look as strong as the Moist Talkers. But Blaseball's weird.
One day I hope the game band knows what's going on with Blaseball and then explains it to us. That'd be nice. I will give my predictions now. Ileana, I agree with you. I think that red dot and the consumers on top of the Crabs isn't going away anytime soon. And I think we might have some chomps. The Moist Talkers do not have the red dot. And they are... Yeah.
I'll get it soon.
Yeah, probably. I do think the Moist Talkers are a little bit of a sleeper compared to their actual power in the postseason right now. while the Magic and Moist Talkers series in the semifinals last season definitely showed that, you know, the Moist Talkers are able to exploit any slight tiny weakness. I think that's going to continue. I don't think the Moist Talkers have lost any of that potency. So I would have to say for myself, Moist Talkers and I think Tigers are in the finals. And I don't know whether it's the Moist Talkers taking 2 in a row or Hades Tigers saying, we are back and we're finally getting another one. Either way, I think it'll be good. But I think we see Moist Talkers versus Tigers in the finals personally.
It's gonna be fun, whatever happens. I think it's even if the Crabs make it to the internet series, I don't think it's gonna be a stomp. So
Sure.
The Crabs versus the Dale would be great, right? Like the team in baseball that everyone just wants to lose, playing the team in baseball that never wins. Like that would be a great storyline.
That would
right?
be.
And I always say on Twitter, I've been saying baseball has a crab problem. It does. It just does. I like it. I like having like that arch villain team that everyone is just like, oh man, they keep winning. But yeah, I don't know if it's the Crabs and the Dale, that's the best storyline. I think. It's
the most fun internet
it
series.
Yeah.
even if we don't think it's that, even if we don't think it's as likely as a Tigers internet series, it is absolutely what we want to see.
Sure. Alrighty, we need to close up shop here. So we're gonna go around, ask for a few links from each of you, anything you might want to promote. So Rhett, we'll start with you again. Where can people find you on the internet?
I am basically just Twitter based, and my handle, I have to look it up because I don't memorize it, but it's not hard. It's R Fowler, Fouler. I spelled that wrong when I signed up, so it's different than my actual name.
Perfect.
So I'm just on Twitter. Follow me, please, for all your Mills stuff.
There we go. Ileana, third guest spot in a row. You had 3 of 3 so far. Where can people find you at?
I am on Twitter at Ileana Quorum, Quorum. You can also find mostly me tweeting for Sibber at SIBR Official. And also you can join the Society for Internet Blaseball Research Discord at discord.cyber.dev, where we do all of our research and development and shark posting.
But not salmon posting.
And also salmon posting.
Oh, okay.
But
And
mostly
salmon
shark
okay.
posting.
Yeah. Has Steve been included recently, just out of curiosity? Has Steve popped back up?
I think someone's working on another email to him to just be like, hey, by the way, this ridiculous thing ended up as like
This
a canon
escalated
thing in the
quickly.
game. And this has continued to escalate. Yeah, Sam and Steve came back sometime during season 14, I think.
Oh, nice.
And tooled around with some of a Discord bot that is hooked up to a completely terrifying set of infrastructure that runs the crisp salmon harvest software in like an emulator, and will tell you whether a particular string of text has significantly caused damage to salmon stock or not. So yeah, it's everything happens so much is I think the summary of the Sibber Discord.
And of course, I want to thank Sibber for everything they do to help out with BNN. They do a lot, so please appreciate what Sibber does. Lucky, your links.
All right, you can find me on Twitter at Haskins_Lucky, and that's Lucky with an E. I also will tweet from the Blaseball Prospectus account weekday mornings. It's at Blaseball Pro. Also, I'm not much of a Discord person, but I am active in the BNN Discord, the Blaseball News Network Discord. You can find the link to that at the Blaseball News Network Twitter account. And those are the best places. And of course, here on Wednesdays with you, Dan.
Yay! And for myself, at least, you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Leto, Leto. You could also find everything that I do not just here on Glamesh at glamesh.tv/Dan, but you can find what I do on YouTube, youtube.com/livinginthe-past. I tend to broadcast Yellowstone Magic games sometime during the weekday evenings. We have a little bit of that tomorrow night, probably. See how Yellowstone is doing. Probably not going to see the postseason, and that's okay. We need a break. After the last day or so, after the last couple Tuesdays, we need a break. In addition, if you enjoy these broadcasts and what I do, consider hitting up my Ko-fi, kofi.com/broadcastdan. With that being said, we're going to close this broadcast out. Thank you, everyone who joined us here, whether you're watching live on Glamesh or on the BNN YouTube. We appreciate you. For Luckey, for Rhett, and for Ileana, I've been Dan, and that's our hubris for this week. Bye-bye now!